All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for this R3 community webinar over consumer market segments for the hunting and shooting sports community. I'm Marty Hogan, and I'm going to be moderating this webinar. And I have some great guests with me today. We have Jim Curcuruto from the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and also we have Rob Southwick from Southwick and Associates. And before I get started here, I'm just going to say that this will all be available online via the R3 community website. That's nationalr3plan.com if you're not in there already. You can get in there, talk to these guys. They have accounts on there. You can chat them. And you can also collaborate with anybody else on there and work with other professionals working on R3. So I encourage you to get in there. And then also during the presentation today, in the lower box in the right-hand corner, you can ask questions. There's a question and answer, and then we'll address those questions after the presentation's done. So without further ado, Jim, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Marty, for setting this all up. And also want to thank you, Eric, and the rest of the team there at Powderhook for doing all you guys do for hunting, the outdoors, and recruitment. You all are doing a really good job utilizing technology to expand participation and teach folks about the outdoors. I also want to thank John, Samantha, and Cyrus at the Council for this opportunity to share some of our latest research findings that we feel will assist you guys with the important task of R3. I've listened in on several of the Council's webinars recently and really enjoyed the insight they're bringing, and my hope is that today Rob and I will be able to keep that streak going and provide you guys some valuable data. I do want to first start out by giving you guys a brief overview of the NSSF. We're a trade association for the firearms and ammunition industry. We're a member-based organization with about 12,000 members, which are primarily made up of firearm retailers, shooting ranges, product manufacturers, the media, NGOs. We've also got about a dozen or so state agencies as members, but we're always looking for more, so we'd love to have you guys join as members. We own and operate the SHOT Show, and our next show is actually going to be our 40th show, which will happen next January in Las Vegas. So we take the money that we make through memberships and through the SHOT Show, and we turn that right back into the industry to further our mission, which is to promote, protect, and preserve hunting and the shooting sports. The past few years, our focus was on the protecting part of that mission, and our government relations team really did a great job during the past election, which has allowed us to just recently shift focus to the promoting part of our mission. So we're excited about that, and it's certainly going to be a big opportunity for us, and we're going to need your help with that as well. As for me, this is my 8th year with NSSF as Director of Industry Research, and quite honestly, the first 7 years, the industry was doing really well, and much to my chagrin, they didn't need the research as much as I would have hoped they needed it because they were on back order, they had lines out their door, which was a good thing. But we have recently seen a shift in the marketplace. This last quarter, firearm sales have slowed, and our board wants us to focus on the promoting and increasing participation aspects of our mission. So again, we'll need your help in doing that. You guys have done a terrific job really managing land and wildlife over the years, and I've seen some great strides recently in your communication efforts to manage the most challenging natural resource, which I think are, hunters and target shooters. So NSSF's been around for more than 50 years, and we've always had an interest in R3 efforts. We were instrumental in developing and standardizing nationwide hunter education curriculum, and we were always been promoting things like firearm safety and Hunter Orange. We were one of the founders of National Hunting and Fishing Day and great programs such as Step Outside and Families Afield. We started the Scholastic Clay Target Program, which is now run by Ben and his team as SSSF. I see Ben on the call listening in. And you guys have done a great job expanding that program. NSSF also owns and operates some websites, Take Me Hunting, Take Me Shooting, WhereToShoot.org, that provide info to people interested in going hunting and shooting. And for years, we ran a HHP, a Hunting Heritage Partnership grant, that provided millions of dollars to state agencies for R3 projects. So we continue to do these things, and we have a first shots program. We're in developmental stages for some other neat programs that will hopefully assist with recruitment and participation. So, I'm talking about a lot of P's: promote, protect, preserve, participation, a lot of important R's that you guys are doing: recruit, retain, reactivate. My favorite R is research, obviously. And NSSF has done a tremendous amount of industry research over the years. We've hit topics such as access, hunter churn, peer influence, among youth on hunting and target shooting. We've looked into some demographic segments such as women gun owners, the Hispanic market, and we've always had great partners help us out with the research. Southwick Associates, Responsive Management are some of our research partners, but we also partner with other NGOs. We're currently working right now with Max McGraw Wildlife Foundation and Bob Byrne Consulting on a case study looking into Hispanic hunters that are new to hunting. They're coming through non-traditional paths. We'll have that data out in September at the AFL conference. And we get plenty of assistance from the industry partners as well as state wildlife agencies while conducting this research. So we really want to thank you guys for that. So kind of long introduction, but it brings us to today's topic. Last year, NSSF decided to take a new approach on a consumer market segmentation research project to better understand folks, not by their demographic segment, not by their gender or their age, but more segmenting them by their wants, their needs, and their motivation for owning a particular product. And this product, of course, in this case is firearms. We did learn a great deal about the different segments of gun owners that our business members are using today to change up their marketing and advertising efforts. But during the study, and really as a byproduct, and to the credit of Rob Southwick and his team, they identified during the study that there was a significant amount of folks that told us they don't own a gun, but they had a high interest in owning a gun over the next couple of years. So we decided to veer off and look at those folks and start to segment them out the same way we did the gun owners. We didn't get into as deep of profiles of those 8 segments, but we did find some really neat things, and what I'd like to do is introduce Rob Southwick, the owner of Southwick Associates, to give you guys some more details on the results of the study. Rob's been doing this research on outdoorsmen for 25 plus years, and this is really a great step forward on consumer insight. So Rob, please take it away. Thank you.
Start a little bit about Southwick Associates. We've been around since 1990. We were founded originally at the request of the AFWA to assist state fish and wildlife agencies. And prior to that, I had worked for the sport fishing industry. So our whole focus has been entirely within the fishing, hunting community over the years. We specialized in everything from economic research of hunting and fishing to evaluating various R3 efforts, even back in the days before we called it R3. So we're really familiar with this kind of with this work. And so I want to talk now about a little bit about the applications here. What is a consumer segmentation study? It basically recognizes there's no such thing as the average customer. That if you try to talk to everybody as one organization, you're going to miss the mark, because our customers, whether it's people who are buying a product or people who we want to get in the outdoor shooting, come in all different sizes, different types of interests, the different motivations. If you speak to one group directly, you'll miss the other group. If you try to speak to all of them at one time, you're going to probably miss all of them to a really major degree. So a consumer segmentation study, though, it allows you to talk to the individual, understand the individual segments of our customer base. There's many different ways you can actually develop a consumer segmentation study. One way, for example, of segmenting your customers is based on what they do, as what type of activity are they engaged in. We can also segment our customers based on what they look like, gender, age, so forth. It's also possible to divide your customers out in the types of products they are buying. Are they participating with long guns, for example? Is it handguns and subtypes? And we can also break people out by region of the country. And these are all fine. There's many good applications for consumer segmentation study based on these methods. but the overall ideal type of consumer segmentation study will group people based on their motivations, their needs, and their wants. Basically, you are not going to sell something to someone, for example, based on what they look like. I would not personally, for example, walk into a store and say, hey, I'm a 50-year-old white male, I need to buy that item. No, people will buy something because there's certain satisfaction they desire, something missing in their life, whether it's utilitarian, whether it's recreational enjoyment. When you meet their core needs and wants, you will then win them as a customer. And in this case, it is winning them as a customer in the hunting and shooting sports. So this consumer segmentation study that we did, as Jim had mentioned, has been done on a very large survey. This case is about 6,000 households in the first phase, and we'll be able to screen through them and find many people who were not active owners. They do not own a firearm, but they had interest in purchasing one and becoming active in the hunting and the shooting sports. So after this survey, we're able to sort them out through various statistical means and produce the results. If you want details on how we produced it, let me know. I don't want to burn time now on the technical aspects. Instead, I'd rather focus our time on introducing these segments of customers. So I just want to, before we get into them, remind everyone that these segments are based on people who do not own a firearm, but intend to purchase one soon. Some of them have some experience in shooting sports, but they're dependent on someone else to take them out there. They're not standing on their own feet. They're the ones that we need to convert over to our customers. They're our easiest targets. So what we have here are these called avatars or memes. They're caricatures of these customers. And I'll describe each one to you and give you little insights as we go along. The goal here is that when we're done, you'll better understand the 8 different segments of potential new customers. And the application is you can then communicate with each one directly and therefore more effectively than trying to speak to all of them at one time, as mentioned before, missing the mark. So our first segment is the aspiring hunter. This segment is our youngest of the segments, very outdoors oriented and very old fashioned in lifestyle. Very much a stereotype here is a person who's had maybe some hunting experience, but has yet to stand on their own feet and go on their own. The segment, though, is 40% female, and that was a surprise to a lot of folks. And 24% of them are actually, we call minority market, as your non-Caucasian segments. So we see a lot of interest in segments outside our traditional base of hunting. This person does not hunt regularly. Again, they have been 1 or 2 times, but they have enough of a taste. They know they want to do it more on their own. They want to acquire the products and get out there. They find hunting to be exciting and thrilling, but really the number one interest they have is being self-sufficient. They want to provide their own meat. They want to take game, bring it home, help contribute to the family cause and to themselves. So providing wild game for the table is a major draw for this younger segment. And we're seeing that in other research as well. The next segment we have is 15% of the market. As Jim had mentioned, there's 24 million people out there we identified within these 8 segments. So we have a lot of growth potential. This segment right here, the aspiring target shooter, for them it's all about fun. They want to go out and have fun with their friends and their family. Target shooting has been an interest of theirs for a while. They're actually 39% female and 37% in minorities. They are more likely to gravitate towards a revolver. They have a moderate interest in shotguns and the shotgun sports, but they really do not have any interest in rifles. That means someday they may develop such an interest, but at this point in time, it is revolvers, semi-autos, shotguns, and then they can move and graduate onto other segments as they become more proficient in the activity. This segment is a little bit younger than the other segments, so price is a concern. They want versatility in their firearm. They want to be able to enjoy many different types of shooting disciplines, but they still want quality and reliability. So they're not going to buy on low price only, but they are just price sensitive. I want to go on to the third market, then I've got an insight I want to share on these first 3 together. So the third of the 8 segments, they're 11% of the market. This is what we call the fun fanatic. Very similar to the aspiring target shooter. They're typically suburban. They want to have fun with family and friends, or even go out on their own. A third of them do shoot on a regular basis, but it's at the invitation with someone else. 48% of them are female. It's a very social activity. 33% are minorities. They look for adventure and social interaction. That's their big draw. They don't describe themselves as outdoorsy. Hunting is really not of interest. So some of these shooters, we may not be able to take down a path to getting into hunting. They are, though, unlike the aspiring target shooter, they're very interested in rifles, especially the modern sporting rifle. They are not the group that's concerned about buying a firearm before they're outlawed. They just have little concern in that area. They are also, unlike the aspiring target shooter, not price conscious. They are one of the wealthiest segments we have here. They will spend the money to get the performance and the product that they want. They do have the money for lessons. They do have the inclination to go to group settings. So any kind of program offered by state agencies to get them out in the range would go over well with this group if you portray it as a group activity. So I presented 3 of the segments so far. These 3 are 35, and this is a personal observation. This does not come from the survey, but just having worked with many states on their R3 evaluations, working with NSSF on their test programs, we at Southwick Associates kind of see an emerging trend, the types of people that we're reaching out to. And those are the first 3 segments. They're people who want to go hunting. They're ones that obviously sign up for hunter ed programs. And the other 2 segments, they want to go out to the range because this is fun and a social activity. But we have 65% of the firearms market out there we haven't touched on yet. And I really don't think we touch them very well as the whole R3 community. And if we think about how we might get them engaged and then graduate them on towards more of the shooting sports, we'll see greater growth. We'll see greater conservation revenues, excise tax revenues. So let me get into who these other segments are, and I think you'll see what I mean. The first of these remaining 5 segments we call the learner. Being 14% of the market, this individual has a strong desire to personally learn about firearms, to engage with firearms, to understand them, to know the specific types of firearms better, and to develop shooting skills. It's not a social activity. This is the kind of person you'll see at the range shooting by themselves. When you talk to them, only about 10% of them say they want to become a regular at the range. So they want to go for a while, learn what it's all about, how to use a firearm, and then maybe move on to the next thing. So we have a group here who wants to learn, and if we can bring them into whether it's competitive activities or social activity or show them new challenges, we can keep them engaged longer and then keep them more as a funding source for conservation and maybe move some into hunting. They're very interested in high quality, reliable firearms. They're not price conscious. They're going to spend money. They don't really care about concealability. It's not about personal protection for them. They just want to, again, become the experts. They want to listen to experts, and we in the R3 community offer that kind of experiential learning. We need to look at that. We can bring them in. This segment actually has the highest participation rate among the African American community. Also the segment that's least likely to have children in the house, 43% female, and I mentioned about half of them are in the minority segments. The other segment, this one here has been kind of an anomaly. This has been the one that drove sales to a large extent. Now, all of them did to some extent, but this group contributed most of the run in firearm sales the last few years. So we're calling them the anxious buyer. They've always been interested in a firearm. They wanted to try it. They've wanted to have one at home or on person for self-protection, but they were scared about not having the ability to buy in the future. Now, this segment here is about 5 million individuals that, as of late last year, had not yet purchased a firearm. So this segment is not going away. Let's just say they're going dormant for a little bit. Because when the time comes, and it will, when there's political pressures and fear of new administrations that might restrict firearm sales, this segment will come back. And so my challenge to the community would be, will we be ready for them? Not just to sell them a firearm, industry can take care of that, but how do we keep them engaged? How do we get them to the range? How do we get them to buy a product, to bring their friends out there and keep it growing. So this segment is still there. They're slightly dormant after the last election, but they will come back. They are the largest percentage female. 54% of them are female, about 30% are in the minority segments. They're one of the oldest segments we have out there. They consider themselves intelligent, very tech savvy. They do not consider themselves outdoorsy. So you have to be careful in the messaging and the imagery. Don't make it look like a big outdoor sport. Indoor ranges work well with this group. Make it look intelligent, educated folks. That's their interest. All right. Next segment is what we call the Unprepared Protector. The Unprepared Protector is actually the least urban of all of our segments. They, as the image shows here, they want a firearm to protect the home and to protect their family. They put a low priority on firearm ownership for fun or social reasons. For them, it's all about safety. They are 50% male, 50% female. They're very interested in firearms are of quality, reliability. Price is not much of a concern, neither is concealability. They just want to have something for home defense. But they're also in position, again, to bring more people into the sport, especially family members down the road, if we convert them from being a firearm owner to become an active target shooter. So again, just a quick note, all these segments I'm describing, they do not own a firearm yet. That's our measure of whether they're a participant or not, but they have interest in doing so for these reasons. All right, the next segment here is unarmed errand, 11% of the market, mostly male. The segment is only 12% female. Unarmed errand, is one of the oldest segments that we have out there. Protection away from home is the greatest concern. There's some concern about protection at home, but traveling, concealability is important there. Aaron is also interested in rifles. This we got a little split here between the ownership. For those that are interested in protection at home, MSRs are pretty of significant interest, but the concealability factor for those who want protection away from home are not is big an issue. So these are the folks who probably wear it out more in the open, keep it with them in the vehicle. But definitely a strong market, more a traditional market, not one of our newer ones. He doesn't see himself as being outdoorsy, but does see himself as being analytical, dependable, and very protective. And then the final segment I want to share right here is what we call weaponless Wendy. When they move on to firearm ownership, this segment then changes names, and when their owner becomes Debbie Defense. But as the name implies, it's a female segment. In fact, this one is 100% female. Wendy is looking to have a firearm to protect herself at home and away from home. She's very big into being independent. She lives primarily in an urban setting. 35% of them come from the minority segments. She sees herself as being very level-headed, very confident. Most of them are single, and a third of them have children in the household. So it indicates a lot of single-parent households in this segment right here. She wants concealability. She wants low weight, so she can carry it with her without the burden of carrying it, but she wants ease of use. Price conscious, yes, but still will spend a little bit extra to make sure she has the quality and reliability that she wants. She doesn't look for experts to give her recommendations about what type of firearm to own. She was one who needs to hold it first, to have it in her hands, but she does look to experts to learn how to use it. She is one that would turn up to state agency events, one that would come out to the range, but not one to come out to a setting if it looks like it's a group full of older men who are experts and will look down at her. So she's independent, but she's still sensitive about being the odd person out. All right, so rolling on, those were the 8 segments. And as you can see, we know who they are. We know their motivations. We know what they want out of a firearm and what they want out of the experience. Is it a social activity? Those ones that spend the most that become conservation funding, or is it more something they want to buy and just put away? And we need to help them move on the path to become a regular shooter. But what we really don't know is how to connect with them. We really don't know where to find them when they're receptive to firearms and shooting sports messages. We know who they are, but we don't know what time of the day or where is when we can actually get them to listen, to bend an ear towards us. We're really not sure yet on the right messaging and imagery that is going to be used, that they can look at it and relate and say, hey, that's me. Because you saw a lot of these segments are urban. They're not outdoorsy people. They're not traditional folks. A lot of our imagery we've used in the past tends to show people in the outdoor setting or being a highly technical shooter, and that's probably going to fail with most of these segments. I think for 65% of the market, our traditional messaging probably is not going to work. And we know that each one has different levels of services and support facilities. A lot of them have friends that can take them out. A lot of them don't. A lot of them will need experts. A lot of them will need facilities where they feel welcome, airy, bright, open, staff of people who look like them. So we need to learn more about this if we're really going to be effective. And that's one thing that with Jim at NSSF, he may speak to it in a minute, we'll be looking at taking care of, or start trying to investigate more next year. This picture here is called the playing field. And I put it up here for a reason. It shows the different interest levels, the real primary drivers, the most important drivers for someone wanting to buy their first firearm. And you can see they range from those who are very interested in low price and high versatility, down to the left, where those who are willing to spend the money to get a specialized product. Right where the crosshairs come together is what you can call the average customer. And you see the four segments more towards the middle of the chart here. All four of those are segments that are the people we usually don't talk to. They fill most of that 65% of firearm owners that we in the R3 community really have not reached. Those segments that we tend to reach in the R3 community is the aspiring hunter, which is towards the top there. And then we have the fun fanatic, which is down over there on the far left. And furthest to the right is the aspiring target shooter. Those three have been our traditional audiences. And you see, those are the three segments that are furthest away as possible from the so-called average customer. So I just want to emphasize the point I made earlier. If we try to speak to the average customer, that is, use one message fits all, if we use that approach, we're really not speaking to anybody, and we're really wasting a good bit of our effort. So we can speak to each one directly to be effective. Coming towards the end here, as mentioned, as Jim had described, we had a larger study done at the same time that segmented current firearm owners. We have 8 segments in there. I'm not going to walk through all those, just going to show you one of them right here. One of our current owners called the collector. Not really an avid target shooter, but he likes to have one of everything. He's, not necessarily antique firearms, but is interested in having the latest MSR, whether it's an AK platform or bullpup or different types of competitive shotguns and rifles. They're the ones who have really been driving a lot of our excise tax collections, along with the avid shooters who are buying a lot of ammunition. So if you want more information on the existing firearm owners, we do have the information available. I'll come to the website in a second. We do have a lot of details on them. So if you're on the industry side of the community, there's a lot more detail for each one of the segments. Wrapping it up here, the benefits of a consumer segmentation study is it will help us understand who our customers are, so we know where to find them better than we have in the past. We know how to speak with them. We know how to put together what kind of messages that will best resonate with them. When we know their specific needs, what is holding them back from becoming a regular shooting sports participant, then we can start providing the services and products they need. Now, I'm not speaking just about products produced by industry, but also a lot of the products produced by state agencies and the NGOs in our community, such as shooting opportunities, ranges, could be game bird preserves. There's a lot of other needs out there more than just a tangible product. At the same time, too, packaging, again, not just the box that a firearm might come in, but when we're promoting R3 events, are we packaging it in the right way where people look at it and quickly say, hey, I can relate to that. There's something there for me. We're not having the wrong imagery and the wrong this kit together that drives people away. So this is the web address. We do have a report that's free on these potential new shooters, describing these 8 segments in much more depth than I just provided to you. You can download it for free, and there's other insights on the existing shooters. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Jim to wrap it up. And if you have questions, be happy to assist.
All right, thanks, Rob. In addition to that web address there, I did post that 11-page report on the R3 website that many of you are, I'm sure, on. So I just put that out there this morning. Um, so, what can you do with this data is always, whenever I'm listening to a webinar, I'm like, what can I take away from that? So a couple of key takeaways are, if you guys are planning to do some recruitment or some promotion of a particular segment, let's say you have a women-only event or a new shooter event, you can kind of utilize some of this to learn a little bit more about what these people, their backgrounds are. So the more you know about your customer or potential customer, the better off you'll be. Know that NSSF is, out there with many of our manufacturing members, and we want to replace the churn. We know people come into the sport, they'll try it, once or twice, and then get occupied by something else. So we want to, both increase participation and recruitment by learning from some of these research reports that we have here. Also, know that we're a resource. We've got a lot of different historical data out there that's available for our members, and I can work with state agencies as well. So you can reach out to me anytime. Rob, I don't know if you can see your screen, but we did get a couple of questions. Dean had asked if the 8 consumer segments can be matched with any of the ESRI tapestry data, and I know Rob has a ESR account, so if you want to handle that question from Dean, Rob?
Yes, yeah, I'm still here. Yes, we can, to a degree. Best Dean gives a shout later. I think we can take it to the life mode level, but we did try to match this up with ESRI as best as we could.
And Rob, do you see Rebecca's question?
Yes, the question is how distinctly are the segments grouped? If you could provide a brief overview of grouping methodology, that would be helpful. At this moment, actually, I can't remember the name of the statistical procedures that were used internally to group them, but it was regression type of approach that looked for connections between individuals, which various characteristics were more common across groups, and we brought them together. It was based on their motivations for a firearm. Was it for a protection issue? Was it for a recreation issue? And then the second level of grouping is primarily based on the type of firearm they're interested in, the types of features that they would want in a firearm. But it was a two-step process, regression and statistical process to group people based on the motivations and then their preferences.
Okay. And, okay, Dean's got another one. Current national trend in firearm sales with the new president. Well, we were up about 10% in our one indicator, the background check data, the NICS data, FBI NICS data for 2016. 11 months were up. December was down, I think, 20%. January down 15%. February about the same. But then March we were up 5% year over year in that one indicator out there. It's not the only thing to look at. But like I had mentioned early on, we had a really good run for 7 or 8 years. We don't expect to continue to make record sales this year, but we do believe that we won't fall back to 7 or 8 years ago. We'll remain somewhere above that 7 or 8-year-old level, but not quite as high as the last couple of years. Well, anybody else wants to type in a question, I will let you know that some of the research that you can be on the lookout for from NSSF in 2017 includes an update to, and we'll be working with Southwick through another multi-state grant. We will be updating the economic impact of hunting and target shooting. Economic impact of hunting, will be using that data set from the national survey that should be coming out here later this year. We've got a couple projects. We're looking at the one gun owner that purchased for personal protection and doesn't shoot all that often. We're looking at how to turn them into a more active participant, as well as we'll be looking at some crossover opportunities. So people that may have one or two disciplines, they're deer hunters and trap shooters. We want to turn that trap shooter into a turkey hunter, or that turkey hunter into a waterfowl hunter. So they're just out there participating more. So that's some of the stuff you can look forward to seeing from NSSF this year. If you do not already, you can subscribe to a free weekly newsletter called Bullet Points on NSSF's website. That comes out every Monday, and we'll put in there any relevant research that we're working on and where it's going to be available to you guys. I don't really have anything to close up. I don't see any more questions, so I'll give Rob and then Marty the last words here. And again, thanks very much for taking time out of your busy days, and look forward to increasing participation with y'all.
Yeah, Jim, this is Marty here. I got a question for you guys. How do we get this information down to a state level where states can take it and implement it and start, doing different things with their programs and whatnot?
Well, those segments, and I'll let Rob, get into any more details here, are representative as a whole. And you'll have regional differences and state differences, but since these are kind of top line segments for 24 million people, they will work on state level data, or state level as well. Rob, am I missing anything there?
No, you're right. Just the mix of segments would vary by state. A more rural state would certainly have fewer of the urban type of segments. But you're right, the motivations, the preferences do not change state by state. Just the percentage across segments would change. We don't have state level data in the study, but we encourage states to look at this and see what's best for them and use it.
Right, and we are hoping to expand these profiles similar to what we had done on the gun owner side with expanded profiles rather than just one page. We have, deeper descriptions of the profiles of each segment. So we're looking into applying for another multi-state grant this cycle here to delve into more specifics that then states could use to tailor their marketing and advertising when they are doing their recruitment efforts.
And do you guys see these segments changing much over the next 5 years, 10 years?
Well, not a lot. They will change. The segmentation studies are always a snapshot in time. It's more common for individuals to move from group to group over time. So people who might be in the aspiring target shooter segment now will buy the first firearm, and then 5 years from now may migrate for 2 or 3 other ownership segments. And that's important to see that progression, because as we recruit new participants into shooting sports, we need to stay connected with them and evolve with their interests and help them evolve into more active segments. So it's individual change over 5 or 10 years. The segments would change not near as much.
Yeah, and we'll see those segments grow the more that we do, and not just NSSF or not just Mississippi, but all 50 DNRs, all 500 taxpayers. If everybody gets involved in recruitment, those segments will only grow. They'll stay the same with their, you'll get grouped into one of those 8 segments, but we want those segments to go from 24 million potential to shifting those into actual gun owners, and while continuing to build interest in gun ownership. And we saw that, most recently with the women gun owners. You've heard about increased women trends. You've seen it probably in your state licensed sales data. A higher interest in women. That's because a lot of people did a lot of things. It wasn't just, 1 or 2 companies. And that's what we have to do with these recruitment efforts.
All right, well, yeah, anybody else who has some questions to ask, the chat box in the bottom right, go ahead and ask away. We'll stay on the line here for a little while longer just to make sure we answered everybody's questions. Rob, in the meantime, did you have that other study that you could maybe just show them real quick?
The other study is actually online. It's some summary information. The full study itself is about 150 pages. Not sure we want to go through all that here, but a summary of the major segments can be found at the website on the screen here.
Ready.
Again, the purpose of the other study is to help industry better understand their customers, but there is a definite connection with the R3 community, especially in the retention efforts. We can look at the study we presented here today to be the recruitment base of R3, but then the other study would show us what we need to do to help keep them engaged or re-engage them.
Hmm.
Anyone can always send a note to Jim or I with additional questions, and we're happy to help them. Lisa Parks in my office too is also available much more often. I travel a lot, and she'd be happy to get the answers for you.
Great, thanks. We'll wrap it up here. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Rob. We'll have all of this available online on the R3 community website. That's nationalr3plan.com. I'm sure most of you are on there. Please get in there, post away, make comments, ask. These guys are on there as well. You can reach out to them and chat them and whatnot. And yeah, so be looking out for those on the R3 community website. Next month we'll have another webinar coming, so keep an eye out for that as well. Jim, Rob, thank you again very much. And everybody else, have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, everyone.